Welcome to the Trent River Report podcast.
Hello.
Today we're embarking on, well, a really fascinating exploration. We're diving into the history of New Bern, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it through a lens that's maybe a little unusual, but I think incredibly compelling. It's historic cemeteries.
That's right. Yeah, it's a unique approach. We've got a couple of key sources guiding us today. There's a briefing document, New Bern's Historic Cemeteries, A Storied Past,
Right.
and also an excerpt from a longer piece called New Bern's Historic Cemeteries, Echoes of a Storied Past.
And these sources, they really paint a picture, don't they?
They absolutely do. They offer this incredibly rich view of the people, the events, everything that shaped New Bern. So our goal really is to dig into what these grounds can tell us about the city's journey.
Exactly. Our mission, if you like, is to unearth some of the stories that maybe aren't always told. Stories held within these cemeteries.
Mm-hmm.
We want to understand how they act as these almost like living records of New Bern's really diverse past, going way back to the founding in 1710.
Right, all the way through huge moments like the Civil War, Reconstruction.
Yeah, it's about seeing history, but in a very personal, sort of tangible way.
And I think a central idea, something that really jumps out from the sources, is that these places, they aren't just, final resting places.
Yeah.
They're described, I think, quite perfectly as open-air museums.
I love that phrase.
Yeah, me too. They offer these really unique, direct insights into the lives of the people who actually built New Bern. It's like walking through history.
It really is. So today we're focusing on three main cemeteries. And each one, as we'll see, tells a different part of the story, represents a different facet of the city's history.
Okay.
We'll be exploring Cedar Grove, then New Bern National, and finally Greenwood.
A good plan. So where do we start? Cedar Grove.
Let's do it. Start at the beginning, right? Cedar Grove Cemetery.
Okay, Cedar Grove. Well, it definitely holds a significant spot, established way back in 1800.
Wow, 1800.
Yeah, making it one of New Bern's oldest burial grounds. Initially, it was actually owned by Christ Episcopal Church,
Oh, okay.
but then it became public property in 1853.
Which is interesting, that shift. Probably reflects the city growing, needing more space.
I'd imagine so, yeah. The community's needs changing over time.
And architecturally, something the sources highlight is this really distinctive coquina wall around it.
Right, the coquina.
For anyone who doesn't know, coquina is that rock made of, like, crushed shells. Gives a very unique look.
It really does. And then there's that entrance, the triple arch entrance.
Ah, yes, the Weeping Arch.
Exactly. And there's a legend tied to that, isn't there?
There is. It's quite evocative. The story goes that the arch actually appears to weep when it rains. Water streams down it, symbolizing mourning. It's quite a poetic image.
It really is a beautiful, rather somber bit of symbolism there.
Definitely. And inside Cedar Grove, well, it's the final resting place for some really prominent figures, people who genuinely left their mark.
Like, who are we talking about?
Well, for instance, William Gaston, 1778 to 1844. He was a U.S. congressman, served on the North Carolina Supreme Court.
Okay.
And maybe most famously, he wrote the state song, The Old North State.
Oh, really? The state song author. That's quite something. Makes you think about that song's legacy, doesn't it?
It does. And then there's a name that, well, probably everyone knows, Caleb Bradham.
Bradham. Rings a bell.
1867 to 1934. He was the pharmacist who invented Pepsi-Cola.
Get out, Pepsi. Invented by someone buried right there.
Right there in Cedar Grove, New Bern. It's amazing, isn't it? The creator of this global drink. Kind of speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit of the time.
Absolutely. Wow.
Who else? There's also John Stanley, 1774 to 1834, another U.S. congressman.
Okay.
But he's maybe best known for something a bit more dramatic.
His fatal duel.
A duel. Seriously, yes, with Richard Dobbs Speight. And Speight himself was pretty significant. He signed the U.S. Constitution.
Wow. So a congressman kills a signer of the Constitution in a duel.
Apparently so. It really it brings that whole era to life, doesn't it? The intensity, the, personal nature of politics back then.
No kidding. That's incredible. Any other notable figures?
Yes, Mary Bayard Clark, 1827 to 1886. She was a poet and author, quite important in Southern literature.
Ah, so representing the arts and culture side, too.
Exactly. Shows the, the breadth of life in New Bern. It wasn't all politics and business.
Good point. A reminder of the vibrant intellectual life there.
And then reflecting the complexities of history, Cedar Grove also has a Confederate memorial.
Okay.
And the graves of many Civil War veterans, Confederate veterans. It sort of lays bare the divisions of that era right there in one place.
Yeah, it really highlights the different loyalties and experiences within the community. It's
Yes.
complex.
Very complex. Which actually leads us quite neatly into the next site, the New Bern National Cemetery.
Okay, the National Cemetery. This one has a very specific and quite poignant origin story, doesn't it?
It really does. Established in 1867, so right after the Civil War ended.
Right.
And it's pretty big, 7.7 acres, with over 7,500 interments.
7,500. That number alone tells you something about the scale of loss.
Absolutely. And as our sources explained, it was created specifically to reinter Union soldiers.
Ah, okay. So Union soldiers.
Yeah, those who died in battles or in hospitals all across eastern North Carolina during the war. It was meant as this dedicated, solemn place to honor their sacrifice for the Union.
A necessary and very important act of remembrance. Are there specific individuals of note buried there?
There are people who played roles beyond just the battlefield, too, like David Heaton.
Eden.
1823 to 1870, he was a U.S. representative and apparently quite a key figure during Reconstruction.
Ah, Reconstruction. That
Yeah.
crucial period after the war, trying to rebuild and integrate formerly enslaved people.
Exactly. So his presence there kind of underscores those efforts to build a new future after the conflict.
Makes sense. Anyone else?
Well, there's a really intriguing story about Charles Plummer Tidd,
Tid. Okay.
1834 to 1862. He was an abolitionist. And get this, he was part of John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry.
No way. One of John Brown's men, buried in New Bern.
It's believed so. The forces say he might be buried there under an alias Charles E. College.
Wow, an alias. Adds a whole layer of mystery, doesn't it? And speaks to the risks people took for their beliefs back then.
It really does. A powerful hidden story.
But what's also really significant about the National Cemetery, and very moving, is the recognition of the United States Colored Troops, the USCT.
Yes, absolutely crucial. The sources mention over 400 USCT soldiers are honored there.
Men who served with incredible bravery during the Civil War, many of whom, sadly, died from disease during the Union occupation period after the fighting stopped.
Right, and giving them that recognition in the National Cemetery is just so important for understanding the full picture of the war.
It truly is. It highlights their fight not just for the Union, but for their own freedom, often against, huge prejudice.
A powerful testament to their courage. It really is. Okay, so that brings us to our third and final cemetery for today, Greenwood Cemetery.
Greenwood. Now, this one holds a very specific and incredibly important distinction in New Bern's history.
It does indeed. Founded in 1860. And it was New Bern's first city-owned African-American cemetery.
The first city-owned one. That's significant in itself, isn't it? Especially in 1860.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the Black community's self-determination, their organization, especially during such a turbulent time.
And the sources really emphasize Greenwood as this, vital record of the city's Black history.
Totally irreplaceable, especially for understanding the Civil War and Reconstruction eras from that community's perspective. It's a place where their stories, their struggles, their achievements are preserved.
Are there prominent individuals buried in Greenwood that the sources mention?
Yes, definitely. One key figure is James Edward O'Hara.
O'Hara.
Lived 1844 to 1905, a real trailblazer. He was one of the very first African-American U.S. congressmen from North Carolina.
Wow. A congressman during Reconstruction.
Exactly. Served 2 terms. His presence there is just, well, incredibly inspiring, isn't it? Thinking about the barriers he broke down.
Absolutely. A powerful symbol of the political progress made, however contested it was. Who else?
There's also John Thomas Barber, 1872 to 1945. He was a highly respected educator and a community leader.
So highlighting the importance of education and leadership within the community itself.
Precisely. Shows that dedication to building up the community, looking towards the future.
And similar to what we discussed earlier, Greenwood also contains the graves of USCT veterans, right?
Yes, that's right. Several USCT veterans rest there, too, which, again, it just underscores the huge contributions of New Bern's African-American community to the Union cause.
It really ties things together, showing that commitment across different parts of the city's landscape.
So when you take these 3 cemeteries together, Cedar Grove, New Bern National, Greenwood, it's like you get this incredibly layered narrative of New Bern's history.
You really do. It becomes so clear how they collectively tell the story. They show the city's diversity, the impact of these huge historical events.
Right. Each one gives you a different angle, a different perspective.
Exactly. Cedar Grove, reflects those early, often elite citizens, the founders, the figures like Gaston and Bradham.
The sort of establishment figures, maybe?
In a way, yeah. Then the National Cemetery is this solemn monument to the Union War effort, the cost of that conflict,
The sacrifice.
the immense sacrifice. And then Greenwood stands as this vital testament to the African American community's legacy, their resilience, their contributions.
And going back to that idea of open-air museums,
Yeah.
it just feels so right. It really allows you this, I don't know, tangible connection to the past. It's not abstract history in a book.
No, it's right there. When you respectfully walk through these places, you're not just looking at stone
You're
markers.
encountering stories.
Exactly. The silent stories of the individuals who lived, who worked, who struggled, who built the new Bern we see today. It's history you can literally walk through.
It makes preserving these sites seem incredibly important, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They offer such invaluable insights into, well, the very fabric of our communities, how they came to be.
Yeah. And it makes you think. Maybe you, listening right now, have similar historic sites in your own community.
Good point. Cemeteries, old buildings, battlefields.
Right. It's worth exploring. Delve into that local history. You might be really surprised by the stories you find, the connections you make.
Definitely. And if you are interested in learning more specifically about New Bern's historic cemeteries, the sources pointed towards the New Bern Historical Society.
Right. And the American Battlefield Trust also has resources. Both are probably great places to start.
Good recommendations.
And of course, for links to those and just more information from this deep dive, you can always head over to TrentRiverReport.com.
Yes, TrentRiverReport.com is the place to go to continue exploring these kinds of fascinating historical topics. We always try to bring you a deeper understanding.
Thank you for listening to the Trent River Report podcast.